Welcome to this video tutorial introducing Latin verbs. Using the verb amo, which corresponds to the English I love or I like, we will quickly examine all the basic elements you will need to know about the language's most common verb type, the finite verb. Verbs in classical Latin contain 5 fundamental characteristics. The first to be examined is the verb's person. The first to be examined is the verb's person. The verb's person possesses an identifier to indicate from the speaker's perspective who performs or passively receives the action. You are able to determine a verb's person based on its ending, which we will examine more in depth later. A more thorough explanation of persons will take place in a subsequent video. Secondly, a verb's number tells us how many. A verb's number tells us how many subjects, either one or more, perform or are passively affected by the action. Latin's person and number are combined together within each verb's personal ending. For example, O corresponds to the first person singular within the first conjugation of the indicative mood. Now we will take a deeper look at both what conjunctions, moods, and numbers are later. Third, a verb's tense indicates when. A verb's tense indicates when the action occurred. Latin has 6 tenses, although we will initially limit ourselves to only the present tense. Like person and number, you are able to determine a verb's tense through its ending. Fourth, verbs possess moods. Verbs possess moods. The first mood is called the indicative. When it is in the indicative mood, it plainly communicates the fact that the verb occurred. Second, the imperative mood causes verbs to command an action to be taken. Commanding verbs to be taken in the imperative mood. Last yet not least, verbs in the subjunctive mood describe hypothetical or potential actions. Hypothetical or potential actions within the subjunctive mood. For the foreseeable future, we will begin only with the indicative mood. Fifth and finally, verbs in Latin also have a voice. Verbs in Latin have a voice, which communicate either what the subject does in a sentence or what passively happens to the subject. If the subject performs the action, the verb's voice is active. Active. Here we go. Now, if the subject passively receives the effect of the action, then the verb's voice is passive. If the subject passively receives the effect of the verb, it is passive. For now, we will only deal with the active voice. In closing, This video introduced the 5 fundamental parts of finite classical verbs. Their person, number, tense, mood, and voice.